So, what happens when a final judgment from a court, a supposed legal victory, is actually built on a complete lie? Well, today we're going to dive into a landmark case that gives us a crystal clear answer. It reveals a principle that, honestly, sits at the very heart of justice itself.
This right here, this is the core of our story. It's a powerful statement from a huge case. And what it means is that any legal decision, I don't care if it's from the highest court in the land, is completely worthless if it was won through deceit. Think of it like a legal kill switch.
And when the court says something is a nullity, they don't just mean it's overturned or reversible. No, it's so much more than that. It's legally erased. Poof, gone. The court treats it like it never, ever happened in the first place. The stakes really couldn't be any higher.
And believe me, this isn't just some dusty legal theory. This very principle was put to the ultimate test in the legal battle that stretched on for decades. And it all came down to a single, deliberately hidden document that had the power to unravel everything.
So this idea that fraud basically cancels everything out, it's not brand new. But there's one specific case that really hammered it home and cemented it into modern law.
The case we're digging into today is the hugely important 1993 Supreme Court of India case, SP Chengalvaraya Naidu versus Jagannath. And let me tell you, this was not just another lawsuit. It ended up becoming a defining moment for the entire integrity of the entire judicial system. Our story doesn't start with some big courtroom explosion. No, it begins quietly, with a calculated, sneaky act of deception involving a simple clerk and a secret document. Okay, so let's meet the cast of characters. First, you've got Chunilal Sokar. He's the moneylender, the guy who's owed money. In legal speak, he's the decree holder. Then we have SP Chengalvaraya Naidu, the judgment debtor, the person who owes the money. And finally, there's a clerk named Jagannath. You're going to want to remember that. This timeline really lays out how the trap was built, piece by piece. First, Jagannath buys some property at an auction, but he's secretly doing it for his boss, Chunilal. Then he signs a registered document, a release deed, which legally states he has zero personal claim to that property. Later, Naidu pays off his entire debt. Everything's settled, case closed, right? Wrong. Years go by, and then Jagannath files a new lawsuit claiming a piece of that very same property, all while deliberately hiding the one document that proved he was lying through his teeth. And this is the absolute key. This wasn't some clerical error or a simple misunderstanding. Jagannath knew, without a doubt, that he had no legal right to that property. The document he himself signed proved it. He was knowingly playing a game of deception, not just with Naidu, but with the court itself. Okay, so the trap is set. Now let's see what happens when this carefully constructed lie actually makes its way into a courtroom. And you're not going to believe this. The lie actually works. Jagannath wins an initial ruling. It seriously looks like he's going to get away with the whole thing. But then, just as the final decision is about to be made, Naidu's team makes a jaw-dropping discovery. They find it. They find the hidden release deed, the smoking gun. So now you've got this huge clash in court. On one side, Naidu was arguing, hey, this whole thing is a fraud, you have to throw this case out. But the High Court, they took a totally different stance. They basically said, tough luck. The case is over. You should have found this document earlier. It's your own fault for not being more diligent. And this quote right here just perfectly sums up their thinking. The High Court put all of the responsibility on Naidu, the victim of the fraud. They argued it was his job to go digging through records to prove that Jagannath was lying, instead of it being Jagannath's duty to, tell the truth in the first place. See, the court was focused on this idea called finality of litigation, which basically means that for the system to work, cases have to end at some point. And in their view, keeping that judgment final was more important than dealing with the lie it was built on. So the lie stood. But Naidu wasn't done. He took his fight to the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court. All right, this is it, the climax. After years and years of a lawsuit based on a single hidden lie, the Supreme Court is about to have the final word. And wow, the Supreme Court did not mince words. Justice Kuldeep Singh delivered this absolute knockout punch. He said that anyone who brings a case based on a lie basically gives up their right to even be in court. It's just a fundamental statement about what justice demands. Let's just break down their incredibly simple but powerful logic. 1, you have to come to court with clean hands, which is a fancy way of saying you have to be honest. 2, deliberately hiding a vital document to win isn't just being clever, it is flat-out fraud on the court. And 3, this is the big one. The duty to be truthful is on the person making the claim. Justice isn't a game of hide and seek where the other guy has to find your lies.
And what did the Supreme Court think about the High Court's argument that Naidu should have just tried harder to find the lie? They called it wholly perverse. I mean, that is an incredibly strong takedown, a complete and total rejection of the lower court's logic. So the final verdict came down like a ton of bricks. The judgment Jagannath won was declared a nullity, gone, as if it never existed. The lie was finally defeated, and the correct original decision from the very first trial was put back into place. Justice at last.
So, you might be asking, why does a case from way back in 1993 still matter so much today? Well, let's take a look at the incredibly powerful legacy it left behind. This case set some really profound rules. It confirmed that fraud is the ultimate trump card. It's more important than the need for cases to just be over. It means a fraudulent judgment is never safe. You can challenge it anywhere, at any time. But most importantly, it established that honesty isn't just a nice idea, it's literally the price of admission to the justice system. You lie, you get thrown out. Simple as that.
And this wasn't just some dusty ruling for its own time. Its principles have echoed through the legal system for decades. In fact, more than 30 years later, its power would be tested once again, in a very modern way. This principle proved just how powerful and timeless it is. In a recent 2025 case, the Supreme Court used the Naidu ruling as the reason to do something pretty extraordinary. They canceled one of their own previous judgments because it was later found to be based on fraud. That just shows you that no court, not even the very highest, is above this fundamental rule that fraud unravels everything.
And all of this brings us back to that one central question. It really challenges the whole definition of what it means to win in court. Because if you have to cheat the system and lie to the judge to get a victory, the case of Naidu versus Jagannath teaches us a clear lesson. What you have isn't justice. It's a nullity.